Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for this panel on Multichain Infra, purpose-built chains driving Bitcoin, mobile applications, and real-world use cases. I'm Kylie from Toka Labs. I'll be moderating the panel today. We've brought together, I think, quite a few leaders from some of the most interesting L1s and ecosystems out there, starting with Neo from Kaya, Marek from Silo, Sarah Maria from Algorand, and Kyle from Stacks. Thank you very much for taking some time to join the panel today. Now, each one of your L1s is built around a very specific vision, right? So today we'll unpack how those visions are shaping infrastructure decisions, interoperability decisions, and ultimately developer and user experience in the multi-chain world. But first, some introductions. So maybe we can go this way down. Very quick, your name, your role, what you're building, and maybe a quick line on your L1, how it's maybe different from a general L1, just to give the audience a bit of context.
I guess I would just start it. So I'm Neo, leading technology and ecosystem at Kaya. So Kaya actually is a messengers layer one, for both Line messengers and KakaoTalk exclusively. So we have been building mini dApp ecosystem actually covering the 250 million monthly active users. So we're on a laser focused missions right there to onboarding the Web2 users via the messengers to the Web3. This is what we have been doing, the mini dApps, and quite recently we have also launched our native stablecoin. So we're looking into being a, I would say, stablecoin gateway in Asia, with the messengers. So that would be us. Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Marek Oszewski. I'm one of the co-founders of Celo and CEO at C Labs. Who here has heard of Celo? Just out of curiosity. Okay, almost everyone, great. So as you know, we're an EVM compatible L1 that recently transitioned to become an L2. And we have this laser focus on real world use cases. So we started really on the mobile payment use case. And we've now partnered with Opera, the browser company that has an amazing mobile payment application on top of Celo. And now we're moving into more mobile DeFi and other real world use cases.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Maria. I work on interoperability at Algorand, layer one blockchain, extremely fast, scalable, focusing on real world use cases also. So I get your point. And yeah, we are focusing right now big time on interoperability to make this amazing blockchain more accessible across different ecosystems.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle. I'm with Stacks. For those who are not familiar, Stacks was one of the original Bitcoin layers. We were the very first to bring programmability and smart contracts to Bitcoin. The idea of being able to build on Bitcoin, bring applications to leverage the stability and security of the Bitcoin L1 has been empowered by us since 2021 when we went mainnet. Today, our focus is very much on the unlock of Bitcoin capital, that $2 trillion of BTC capital that sits there idle today. We are helping and working together to unlock that and make it productive throughout Bitcoin DeFi and other future applications, including real world assets as well.
All right. Thanks very much, guys. All right, let's kick it off. Each one of your chain, as you guys have gone through your introductions, was designed with very specific purpose in mind, right? Whether it's a Bitcoin alignment for both of you guys on the ends, mobile native UX, application-centric logic, or real-world institutional use cases. How has that founding principle shaped the infrastructure decisions that you make today? And have you had to evolve them as your ecosystem grows? Have you had to make some trade-offs? Maybe Sarah Maria, let's start with you.
Thank you. So the Algorand blockchain has been built to be extremely fast, affordable, and capable to drive a ton of transactions. We had zero downtime and we're running very smoothly. So when the chain itself has been built, it was focused to get users on board that are able to have lots of transactions, right? And we are now focusing, again, as mentioned earlier, on interoperability, because now when you have a blockchain that is extremely fast, secure, not expensive, you can have these large amounts of transactions and have new users accessing this ecosystem. Why we work right now on interoperability? Well, interoperability is not an option. It's a must-have in this industry. And I think projects in the space focusing more and more to build cross-chain products to give different users different access points towards your chain.
Does anyone want to add on to that? Anyone want to talk about their L1s? How have they evolved, or how have you made your infrastructure decisions based on your founding principles?
Yeah. So I guess first of all, Celo used to be an L1, now it's an L2, so that's a pretty big evolution. We started, way back in 2018. We already back then we really firmly believed that the EVM was going to be the winning VM, and that Solidity and other Ethereum languages would be, well, specifically Solidity would be the kind of smart contract language that will eventually win. And so that gave us a lot of conviction to create an EVM chain. But because we had this focus on mobile payments, we added these extra features like the ability to pay for gas with tokens, which is really, really amazing. Now, if someone sends you USDC or USDT to your wallet, even if it's a brand new wallet, you can then forward that on to someone else who here has received some USDT into a new wallet or USDC and not been able to send it on to someone else. Anybody? Okay, a few people. Super frustrating when that happens. It doesn't happen on Celo because you can pay for gas with the token that you're sending. But and when we started, there was no L2 scaling roadmap. The only thing to do if you wanted to create a highly scalable EVM compatible chain back then was to launch your own L1. But of course, Ethereum has kind of evolved and it introduced the L2 scaling roadmap. And so we got really, really excited about that. We do believe in the EVM. We do believe in kind of Ethereum. We actually started in Ethereum way back when. And so our big evolution was, transitioning and becoming an L2 earlier this year, which was not a small thing to do. It was 2 years in the making, but we're just super super glad that it went off without a hitch, and now we're just this blazing fast mobile focused L2.
Great. Thanks, Marek. Let's hear from the Bitcoin native L1s now.
Yeah, so I'll just talk about maybe building on Bitcoin in general. The thesis has been there back from 2014 and even all the way back to when Bitcoin launches in L1. We saw a lot of design specific layers launch. Lightning with DeFi and payments, stacks. On the programmability side, we saw Lightning, Rootstock, Liquid, and others start to pop up. And one thing that stayed very consistent, and we all learned from, is that building on Bitcoin is hard. It's difficult for the right reasons, right? The Bitcoin L1 is very stable, it is very slow, and it is very secure. And a lot of time and effort has been made to make sure that stays that way. But being able to leverage those things is what many developers have wanted. However, it's taking a lot of time to build the right infrastructure to make that possible at scale. So a lot of what we saw in the early 2021 up to 2023 era, when Stacks and a few other networks were coming to life, is building on Bitcoin is exciting. It is possible, but again, it's very, very slow. From the Stacks perspective, our blocks were paired with Bitcoin, which means from a I saw Sarah just gasp over here. Every transaction, I'll be generous, took 10 to 60 minutes. They were paired with a Bitcoin block. Anything of note in transactions, that's just not desirable. Maybe for sending large payments, but still, that's not what people are looking for. And so while programmability was there and the thesis of it was true, we needed to enhance speed, and not just us as Stacks, the entire Bitcoin ecosystem had to. And also, a big thesis was for Bitcoin to have productivity, utility. An entire technical stack had to exist above the L1. So you saw layer twos, you saw protocols, you saw middleware. You've seen this entire application and technical stack start to evolve over the last couple of years. We are very fortunate to have the foundation that Ethereum and EVM ecosystems built for almost 7 years and really hardened for us to build on top of. And from a Stacks perspective, we took those lessons. We took the lessons that we learned and founders learned as well of how do we make this faster? How do we make this more secure? How do we bring sub-second transactions like Solana on a Bitcoin-based network, which we were able to do last year through our Nakamoto upgrade? But more importantly, how do we bring true Bitcoin finality and keep that security without sacrificing speed? And we were able to do that. And you saw many other layers start to enter in this ecosystem to solve additional gaps throughout that infrastructural stack. And it's all proven true because going into 2024, we see institutions start to come in waves. We start to see the opening of Bitcoin staking. We start to see tokenized Bitcoin. We start to see BTC, which once everyone said would never move. It would stay as a store of value. It would stay as a digital gold. It would never move out of that theme. Today, we've seen that theme change. We go from almost no activity to 300 million in total volume by the end of 23, 6.5 billion by the end of 24, and as of yesterday, almost 8.8 billion in TVL and activity, and that's not including tokenized assets. So once the thesis was programmability and people want to build on Bitcoin, slow and it was stable for the right reasons. So we and others adjusted for that and be able to give birth to this entire world that exists for us here today of seeing over 0.5% of Bitcoin's market cap active and soon to be almost 2% by the end of the year active and participating.
Well, that's great to kind of hear. And Neo, I see you nodding along as well as that whole kind of spiel came out.
I mean,
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's always the last one to speak. Obviously, listen to everything first. So I think Kyle actually make a very good summary. First of all, back in 2018, everybody actually based when they build layer one based on the tech foundations of EVM because this might be the easiest way to start with. If you think about at that time, people will be using Quorum or even the Click implementations to build a consortium blockchain, what we call a POA. So back then, for the building principles for Kaya, actually, Kaya was coming from a merger between the Clayton blockchain previously, which is the EVM chain, and also with the Finchia, which is more like from the Cosmos side, which is underlying messengers. So when we merged it, actually, we inherit the mainnet of Clayton. So that was around 2019 when we first launched our mainnet. The building principle is actually, UX first all the time. At that time when we were inherit, kind of the tech foundations of EVM chain as a EVM layer one, first thing that we look into the UX, how low fee must be. It should be a peppercorn for what you have that you pay on the Ethereum network back then. And then also we look into, like a immediate finality. So what you see is what is being finalized already on the chain. You don't have any, buffer rack that come back with, against on the decisions or state being, broadcast right on the network. So UX first, then now getting onto becomes Kaya, right? So we becomes EVM layer one as usual. And then we have been very much focusing on the mobile first and, messengers focus, these kind of user experience. There are so many in-app experience that we look into. We are looking a lot right now to inherit what we have in terms of the UX, but at the same time onto how we will be, bringing more better, I would say, experience like that for the mobile users like that on the messengers. They don't have to go back and forth like that just to open different dApps like that. What they need to do, open the messengers, getting on your mini dApps, in-app experience, and then you'll be able to, earn something from the games that you're playing on. And at the same time, you can trade and swap this kind of, mini asset like that from the mini games and all the way that will be going back to the, stable coin that you have. And during the journey, you don't have to even get hold of any Kaya tokens. You can, because of the gas abstractions that we have, you'll be able to use literally every mini dApps token or the native USDT on Kaya to pay for the gas so as to have the gas transactions and also fee delegation. So everything for the users we would do, as I said, like the only missions that we have is to onboarding these 250 million users from the messengers, and we would do everything for that. So that was the building principle. It's a bit long, but yeah, that will be it.
Great. I think we've actually unpacked a lot in this one single question. So hopefully we run through the rest fairly quickly. Sarah, you mentioned about interoperability, and of course we're here at Multichain Day. Obviously, interoperability is very much the key topic. It is from Token Labs' perspective as a prop chain. We're very interested in interoperability as well. We ourselves are cross-chain solvers, but very, very keen to hear from you guys, right? Interoperability obviously is crucial, but it's not as simple as just plugging into everything. right? How do you think about interoperability today? Are you optimizing for integration, ease of integration, or are you actually focusing on differentiation, or is it maybe a combination on both in different parts? Does anyone want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I think right now the challenge is when it comes to interoperability is really getting it plugged in, especially when you come from a non-EVM. Going from EVM to non-EVM for our developers, shout out to them. I love you guys. I'm sorry. So I think making a chain interoperable and truly interoperable, not just interop solutions, but bridging solver intent based solutions. These different products and verticals being integrated is a lot of work. And I think we're still not there from a developer experience to make these things as seamless and easy as possible. And to get there, a lot of things need to happen. Sure, from a user experience, bridging through a jumper or a bungee is quite nice. But from a developer perspective, getting these things integrated takes a lot of work, a lot of time. And it's lengthy for the user themselves, right? Because you might have your favorite chain you're using, and then you would like to try another chain, EVM based or non EVM based. And then it becomes a challenge because you still need to wait 6, 8, 12 months to have your chain being truly interoperable. So, from my experience, I would say the developer experience would be great to improve that. But I know as of now, projects are working on that. Software development kits are being built, and it gets better, but it's like we're still early when it comes to interoperability. And I think there are a lot of chains working on making the user experience better by giving access to other ecosystems. But back to the point, we're still not there. It's still a lot of work. Developers need to spend hours and hours to make it even happen, changing endpoints and making interoperable across different chains even possible. So we're getting there. It takes some time, but I'm bullish on seeing a future where chains can truly work in a connected way, not just for the sake of getting more users, but improving truly the user experience across different ecosystems.
That's a great point. And we will dive in a little bit deeper into developers and all the good work that they're doing, how we make the environment better. But I want to have a quick follow-up question, and for anyone here really, how do you ensure interoperability doesn't dilute the core values, the unique selling points that your ecosystem brings to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our case, we've just been so laser focused on kind of these real world use case type activities. Our thesis is in a multi-chain world, each chain will have to really focus and target a specific niche. And I think that's going to be the ultimate defensibility, right? You want to be connected to the whole multi-chain ecosystem because that makes it easier for people to onboard. It makes it easier for liquidity to move around. But you need to have some network effects on your chain that make it defensible so that your users don't go elsewhere. And so in our case, we partnered with Opera, as I mentioned before. Who here has used the Opera browser? Anybody? Okay, a bunch of people. So Opera's been around for a long time. They have 500 million users, monthly active users across all their products. And they've integrated MiniPay directly into one of their browsers on Android. And so they've onboarded through that, I think, over 8 million people right now, and that number keeps growing. And so for us, this partnership is a great source of defensibility, but also a really good um, asset for any developer who's interested in targeting, 8 million users. They can be embedded directly into MiniPay, into the Mini app ecosystem there, and get onboarded and get flooded with, just a whole bunch of users. So yeah, I think it's all about like really focusing on your niche, and while still working towards being connected. Because ultimately, if you're isolated, then I think that ends up being bad too.
That's quite an interesting take on interoperability. I think in general in the space, people think of it as multi-chain, but in your case, it's actually bridging also with Web 2, for example, like Opera, which is a very interesting view on interoperability, I think. How about the Bitcoin guys?
Neo, you wanted to jump in first, so you go and then I'll go.
You
All right. From an interoperability standpoint, I think Sarah said it best. It's not if but when. It's something that's necessary. But I think we need to separate that conversation. There's interoperability the way we're talking about it right now, from the developer standpoint, from our ecosystem, from a network, from a protocol. These very technical terms. A lot is still changing. I mean, aggressively, we've seen most of the development of this industry in the last few years. It was a long time of slow development and then a very short window of aggressive development. And so, yes, it's taken a lot of time, but it's also something that we do need to put forth. From the Bitcoin perspective, I can tell you 60 plus thousand Bitcoins moving. One of the biggest lessons learned across from that is that Bitcoin wants to move, Bitcoin wants to be active, and Bitcoin wants to go to whatever chain or across chain as it needs to. But that lesson, separating the conversation for a minute, is every user outside of the world of Web3 does not care about the word interoperable. They care about whether or not it works. They care about whether or not their applications seamlessly connect to their messaging protocols, or excuse me, their messaging applications, to their friends, to their family. That's what they care about at the end of the day. So when we talk about interoperability, yes, there's the technical side of it that we're all working on. And whether it's Ethereum, it's the Move ecosystem, it's Solana, it's Bitcoin, we're all working to connect those dots. From the Bitcoin side, I already know Solana, Aptos, Sui, you've got Ethereum, you've got many others that all want Bitcoin to connect and go through them, because again, it's $2 trillion of capital. Turning on that industry, that ecosystem overnight, nothing we've ever seen before. But every user, the 48 million unique wallets out there today that hold Bitcoin, do not care about the technicals. They care about, does this work? They don't want to switch between one network and another. They want to be able to go from one application to another. And back to that 60,000 Bitcoin, that is a big lesson we all learned. 22 different assets, multiple networks. Every single one of us looked at that as users want to be able to enter it on chain. They want to be able to deploy or engage or be active, but not have to switch between multiple networks. That is the quickest way to turn off users as opposed to welcome users into this ecosystem. I'll be the villain on the panel for a moment and say that, because I think we have a tendency to focus so much on the technicals, and really we need to start looking towards the users.
Can I add something?
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Poor Neo.
I'm sorry, Neo. I agree. I think we focus a lot on the technology itself and the development, but the day-to-day Joe, they don't care, right? They should have an experience. Like, they don't care about Ali Cloud or any other cloud provider. They care about getting access to different social media platforms, their mail and whatnot. And I think when we improve the user experience, onboarding is already hard for the day-to-day Joe. And I think everybody in this room got onboarded at some point. It was not easy when you have the first touch point there, right? I see a guy laughing back there. So I think the user experience needs to improve, and interoperability should be a layer in between that improves the user experience and not has another burden to them. Like, it's hard to set up a wallet, it's hard to add funds there, it's hard to make sure everything is secure. So I think, and just to add my thought there, user experience needs to improve also when it comes to interoperability, and also from a project and chain perspective, because onboarding is already hard enough. Neo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to follow Bitcoin. But anyway, so I think the point I'm trying to make is, like, ordinary users, Web2 users, they don't really care about our, phrases right here, interoperabilities, or I would say abstractions. I'm trying to say abstractions. So for, I would say multi-chain infra to be really adopt, it must be going through the abstractions layer, meaning that it's not only between chain, right? So interoperability could be, in our language, is more like between chain, right? But for the users, for them, they are maybe between the dApps, between maybe the eco infra, say like the DEXs. But what they care is, like, I don't really care about which chain. I want to, in my mini dApps, I trade this mini dApp stable coin, and then I will be going to the coin and buy some in-app asset, and then there will be on other chain that were happening in the wallet on other chain that I have. This is what they care. They don't really about going through which chain that they have. They just want to see the seamless user experience of it. And to us, I think for Kai to look into is, we are not quite there. I mean, everybody are not quite there on the, like a mainstream adoptions like that from the industry. Is there is never a successful abstractions layer that is applied to the right distribution channels. Right distribution channel means the distribution channels that already having tons of millions of users from the Web 2. And how you're going to plug in the abstractions layer onto that is the key for the multi-chain infra to be adopted. So this is a bit our point, and that's why what we are focused on our distribution channel. We do one thing at a time. We do it good, which is the like the mini dApps on the messenger side. And then because these messengers already exclusively on our layer one, and then by extending our eco infra, working with more abstractions layer, say like in-time bridges, not just atomic bridges, but in-time bridges, and few more abstractions layer onto not just between chain, but also dApps by having more marketplace. I think that will be also certainly contribute to the success of everybody projects right here. So that was what I'm trying to summarize.
This is really interesting because I think, I had a question, as I mentioned earlier, about devs, but given the other segment of cross-chain interoperability that Kyle, you had highlighted, I think I want to actually dive into another question I had, which was around your infra design decisions. I know it's infra, it's still very technical, but I think this will be more infra geared towards things that will influence, liquidity, user flows, or even market structure. Right. So how are you looking at these design decisions? For example, using native gas assets, supporting cross-chain messaging, or requiring asset wrapping, which is a very big thing in Bitcoin. How do these decisions play out in your ecosystems, and what are you prioritizing to then result in better liquidity, better user flow, better market structure, et cetera, et cetera? Marek, maybe we can start with you.
Yes, I mentioned this ability to pay for gas with tokens. I think that's our real kind of cornerstone usability feature on Celo, and we do this without account abstraction. So this is supported natively by the chain. You can use it with an EOA. You don't need to have a smart contract wallet for this to work. It's been powering just an immense number of transactions, billions of transactions over the years that are running on the Celo blockchain. Just to give you an example, I think 50% of all transactions on Celo are now paid for in using USDT, and so that's just a testament to how much users really want this ease of use. But beyond that, we are really focused on the user. I think usability is really important. I think one thing that we're particularly excited about is giving users a way to kind of compete against big funds and mercenary capital that's pervasive in our industry. And for that, we recently launched a protocol called Self, which is a ZK identity protocol, which you can use to basically prove that you are a unique individual. It basically solves a Sybil issue without needing capital, or without needing proof of work, or other mechanisms that were used in the past for Sybil resistance. And so that, I think, is something I'd love to share more about, but we're low on time. But you can definitely come grab me afterwards. I'm happy to talk more.
Does anyone want to add to that?
Neo, I'm gonna let you. Neo, I'm pointing to you. Go for it.
Okay. So I think for these, for Kaya perspective, we are more like, for any decisions to be made, as everybody will say it, UX all the time, and then you will be top it up with the abstractions, which we cover already. To us, it's more like use cases as well. So every chain you have specific asset, like you have your native currency, you have USDT or native USDT that you might have. The point being right here is like, do you see the diversity of the use cases that are serving the distribution channels that you're having is also one of the key, because you need to see the use cases first, then you will think about improving the UX. I think that is generally what we were thinking. And then during this, we want to create an environment for our dApps to create the mini dApps, not just about mini games, but starting to see more use cases about DeFi agent as a mini dApps that you'll be connect with the Dune analytics and give you all the analytics that you need as a trader. Or for the whole experience, you don't have to even leave your messengers, and you can connect the messengers with the wallet that you already have in different chain. So it's kind of abstractions that we talk about, but only by having more DeFi or stablecoin related use cases within the Minidap ecosystem will be the way forward for Kaya. And that's why we are, launching the native USDT and trying to fight for become the stablecoin gateway in Asia. And that's part of the reason why there's a lot of rumors coming up, and we are getting back to the top 50 by market cap. So there's a lot happening for Kite when it comes to stablecoin and Minidap. So it's trying to summarize on this point.
I'll go super quick because I know we're a short time. So for Sarah and I, for us, we listen to our users. I'm lucky enough to talk to institutions on a daily basis and retail as well. And building on Bitcoin is hard enough. We wanted to hear from users, what were their struggles, what were their desires. And so from wrapping versus minting our asset, we went down the minting route, providing a one-to-one representation versus a secondary asset, which in some cases is a swap, and that's a taxable event in some places. So we wanted to take a different approach. And then we looked at things like self-custodial BTC and the idea that you don't need a third-party signer or anything else in the middle, but instead the dream is alive and go from trust minimized to trustless in a whole new way, or segregated addresses with custodians, dual staking, all of this that we've supported and put in R&D across the industry. We wanted to bring that at an easy level for any user, whether it's the 48 million or it's the next 400 million plus out there that they can easily onboard.
Okay, that's going to be very short. So we focus right now on interoperability. What a surprise. And we focus on getting rid of wrapped assets. We try to bring more trust towards the users because wrapped assets are a bit of a pain. So we are focusing on this as well. And you might see one or two announcements during this event. Shout out to the guys from Wormhole. I think what they built with NTT is very impressive and improves the user experience big time. So I think actually by improving certain steps along the way, including getting rid of wrapped assets, user experience improves. And additionally, giving access to bridging solutions, interop solutions, and really making this ecosystem more accessible. And I think I can end it with that because we're over time.
We are slightly over time, but I want to very, very quickly go through each one of you, your hot takes. And this could be something that you think people are overhyping, could be something that we're missing completely, or just an opinion yet you're just usually too polite to say out loud. Super quick, super snappy, something to get your community excited about as well. Neo, let's start with you.
So Web3 will never get to the mass adoptions if there is no abstractions layer of the multi-chain infra applied to the right distribution channel.
I would say, the fact that most crypto users are obsessed with number go up is a direct result of the kind of crypto people that we've onboarded, right? We've onboarded people through a lot of incentives for people who have capital. And so people came with capital and they put money in and they expected to get a return on that capital. And so I think that the way to change this thinking is to onboard everyone else, people who may need crypto for reasons other than just number go up. And the way we do that is through incentives that are not on capital. And so we need to solve Sybil resistance. And again, we're doing a lot in that regard. Come talk to me afterwards if you want to hear more.
Cross-chain and token accessibility are extremely mandatory. And if a project is not focusing on that, or a chain is not focusing on these solutions, they will have a big pain in the future. They will struggle getting more users onboarded and keep users.
I think we see 2% of Bitcoin's total market cap productive by the end of the year. And more importantly, I think that we see the entire Bitcoin TVL or activity space flip stablecoins in the next 2 years.
Very, very good. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Thanks so much for our panelists, Kyle from Stack, Sarah Maria from Algorand, Mario from Celo, and Neo from Kaya. As I said, I think we will be hanging around a little bit if anyone in the audience would like to catch up with anyone. And thank you very much. Have a good day.